Hi everyone, and welcome to this lecture as a part of REMEDI e-learning module. My name is Negar Razaqi, an early stage researcher 1, ESR1 in the REMEDI ITN project, part of the Horizon 2020 Marie Skłodowska-Curie action. I'm thrilled to have you here for my lecture on a fascinating topic of turbulent flow in porous media, from historical foundations to current research. This lecture aims to introduce the topic and its significance, and I will also introduce ongoing advancements and methodologies in studying turbulent flow in porous media. To briefly introduce a complex phenomenon of turbulent flow in porous media with far-reaching implications across various scientific disciplines and real-world applications, we will go through the following key topics. Begin with the introduction to turbulent flow in porous media, definitions, and its fundamental characteristics. Next, we will briefly probing the history of paradigm shifts and how the study of turbulence came into focus and evolved over time. To illustrate the broad relevance of this field, we will later get familiar with some examples of turbulent flow in porous media in different applications, and we will then focus a bit on the environmental implications like the fate and distribution of pollutants in water resources and stream sediments. Moreover, we will also look at how transport mechanisms get affected by turbulent flow. Eventually, I'll provide you with some information on the latest advancement in tools and techniques being developed to study turbulent flow, both experimentally and numerically, to push the boundaries of our understanding. When we are talking about turbulent flow in porous media, the nature of this fluid motion is chaotic. Turbulent flow itself is a type of fluid flow where the velocity field is highly irregular and unpredictable. Unlike laminar flow, where fluid moves in smooth, orderly layers, turbulent flow in porous media is often characterized by the formation of eddies and vortices of various sizes, which often associated with high Reynolds numbers and inhomogeneous flow at stagnation zones. Turbulent flow causes intense chaotic spatiotemporal fluctuations in flow field. The critical Reynolds number at which turbulence begins can vary depending on the porous geometry and boundary conditions. Abrupt changes in geometry can result in flow separation and formation of recirculation zones, which indeed stemming from the competition between surface forces, or more accurately viscous forces in the vicinity of solid boundaries, and the inertial forces in flow with relatively high velocity. The study of turbulent flow in porous materials has been a topic of extensive research and debate. The current consensus is that occurrence of turbulent flow in porous media is even more common and beneficial in some applications than previously thought. Here in this slide, we will explore the significant learning points that have shaped our understanding of turbulent flow in porous media today. This journey through the history of research aims to highlight the contribution of several key researchers and their groundbreaking works. Let's begin with Forchheimer's contribution in 1901, when he first reported deviations of flow behavior from the conventional Darcy's law at high enough flow rates. This was a crucial step in recognizing the complexity of flow beyond the laminar regime. Later in 1933, Fancher and Lewis introduced analogies between the flow in porous media and the pipes flow. Next, in 1945, we have Rose, who identified an inertial transition flow regime between the laminar flow and the fully turbulent flow in porous media, emphasizing that transition from laminar flow to turbulent flow is not abrupt. Swift's research in 1962 was another approval to the opinion that deviations from linear pressure-velocity relationship in porous media could be attributed to the presence of turbulence. Baer further expanded on these ideas in 1972 by pointing out the existence of three distinct flow regimes. According to his proper discussion, as the flow rate increases, there are actually three different flow regimes. First, we have laminar flow, where Darcy law is enough to describe it. Then we have transitional inertial flow, where the flow behavior would be nonlinear laminar. And ultimately, fully turbulent flow will be formed. This classification provided a clearer framework for studying flow behavior in porous media. Later in 1984, Dibbs and Edwards provided a detailed description of the flow development stages as the flow rate increases. In their very nice discussion, they presented that as the flow rate increases, flow initiates from the laminar, transition to the steady nonlinear laminar, followed by unsteady nonlinear laminar, and eventually a highly unsteady, chaotic, turbulent flow regime emerges. This provides a comprehensive view of flow evolution as Reynolds number increases. Now, let's move on to some practical examples of turbulent flow within porous structures. These examples show the diverse applications and the occurrence of turbulence in completely different environments. The first application is in aquatic vegetation or underwater canopies. Submerged aquatic vegetation is commonly found in river systems, and aquatic ecosystems forms a porous environment beneath the water's surface. These environments exhibit complex interactions between the river water and the porous structures formed by the vegetation, leading to unique flow patterns and turbulence characteristics. The turbulent flow within these underwater canopies plays a significant role in transporting nutrients, resuspending sediment, and also have effects on the aquatic ecosystems. We also have turbulent flow in heat exchangers. Turbulent flow is desirable in heat exchangers because it enhances heat transfer by increasing mixing, improving heat transfer coefficients, reducing boundary layer thickness, and preventing fouling. Indeed, designing a heat exchanger to achieve and maintain turbulent flow is essential to improve heat transfer efficiency. Turbulent water flow infiltration in sediments of hyporheic zones is another application of turbulent flow and an important aspect of river and stream ecosystems, which facilitating the exchange of water, nutrients, and contaminants between the surface water and the subsurface sediments. It is actually a complex and dynamic process influenced by factors such as flow velocity, sediment characteristics, and channel morphology. Catalytic reactors for processing and distillation also benefit from turbulent flow. Packed beds or fixed bed reactors filled with porous catalysts are used for chemical reactions. Turbulent flow through the porous catalyst bed enhances mixing, mass transfer, and reaction rates, and therefore improve the efficiency of chemical reactions and separation processes. In this slide, we have a table from an outstanding review paper published in 2020 by Wood et al. Here you can find a range of applications for a high Reynolds flow in porous media with some references for each of them. In the context of REMEDI project, we have focused on the application of turbulent flow in porous media with implications for water flow through river sediments, water remediation, and contaminant recovery. These examples indicate the widespread occurrence and importance of turbulent flow in porous structures. Understanding and controlling turbulence in these applications can lead to significant advancements in efficiency, performance, and environmental management. In this slide, I would like to focus a bit on the environmental implications of turbulent flow on the fate and distribution of contaminants in water resources. Turbulent flow plays a crucial role in the environmental fate and distribution of pollutants in water resources and stream sediment, particularly in river systems. It has significant impact on how contaminants are transported and deposited in stream sediments, making it essential for us to understand its mechanisms and effects. In river systems, turbulent flow affects various transport mechanisms, including mass transfer, momentum transfer, and energy transfer. These processes are critical in determining how pollutants move through porous media and interact with the surrounding environment. One of the key areas where turbulence plays a vital role is in the interaction between the water flow and riverbed sediments. This interaction is complex and multifaceted. First point is that turbulent flow creates a dynamic boundary layer at the sediment-water interface, influencing the exchange of substances between these two phases. On the other hand, river sediments often form porous media, and turbulent flow can penetrate these structures, affecting the distribution and retention of pollutants within the sediment layers. Also, the turbulent motion of water can resuspend the sediments, potentially resulting trapped contaminants back into the water column. Among all these three aspects of effect of turbulent flow in interaction between water flow and river sediments, we have focused on the second one, which is the turbulent flow within the porous media. Knowledge of turbulent flow, in fact, has practical applications in environmental protection, water resources management, and the development of more effective remediation techniques for polluted water resources. In the following few slides, I will be discussing the critical role that turbulent flow plays in the transport of pollutants in water resources. Let's start with advection. Advection is the process by which contaminants are transported by the bulk motion of fluid. In high velocity flows, like when the fluid flows in turbulent flow regime, advection is the dominant transport mechanism. This means that contaminants move primarily with the flow of the water, which can carry them over long distances relatively quickly. This process is influential on how contaminants can spread through large water bodies, such as rivers and lakes. Subsequently, we have diffusion. Diffusion is a microscopic phenomenon driven by random molecular motions, often referred to as Brownian motion. It describes how substances spread out due to concentration gradient following fixed laws. Here you can see the variation in concentration profile because of diffusion in the figure on the bottom right hand side. As the process of mass diffusion progresses within the system, the initial dark blue concentration profile will gradually evolve. The peak concentration will broaden and diminish and eventually transition towards a more uniform yellow concentration profile. Unlike advection, diffusion operates in a much smaller scale, although it is a slower process compared to advection. Diffusion is still important in the eventual even distribution of contaminants in water. Turbulent flow significantly enhances the diffusion process in water resources, making it more efficient and rapid compared to diffusion in laminar flow conditions. Firstly, turbulent flow creates eddies and vortices that constantly stir the fluid, breaking up the concentration gradients and increasing the surface area for molecular diffusion to occur. This stirring action of turbulence creates localized area of high and low concentrations, steepening concentration gradients on a microscopic scale that amplifies the driving force for diffusion according to Fick's laws. Also, turbulent fluid motion increases the frequency of collisions between molecules, promoting faster random molecular movements or Brownian motion that are fundamental to diffusion process. Another effective factor is that turbulence disrupts the formation of stable diffusion layers near surfaces and interfaces, which effectively reducing the thickness of these layers and allowing for more rapid diffusion across boundaries. Finally, while diffusion itself is a microscopic phenomenon, turbulent flow introduces macroscopic transport mechanisms that work alongside diffusion, leading to a combined effect often referred to as turbulent diffusion or eddy diffusion. By all these mechanisms, turbulent flow significantly accelerates the overall diffusion process, leading to more rapid and thorough mixing of pollutants in water resources compared to what would occur through molecular diffusion alone in a laminar flow conditions. In this slide, we are going to talk about dispersion. Dispersion is another key process influenced by turbulent flow. It can be divided into two types, longitudinal and transverse dispersion. Dispersion is a macroscopic phenomenon which occurs due to gradients in flow velocity and also the splitting of flow paths. Gradients in flow velocity encompasses both laminar and turbulent dispersion in regions with a flow velocity gradient. To make it clearer, let's look at the image on the top right hand side of this slide, where two particles started their motion at the same position and get dispersed due to laminar flow velocity gradient. Same thing will happen in the turbulent flow regime, where the flow velocity gradient causes particles to get dispersed. Also, vortices or eddies in turbulent flow can function much like the mechanical obstacles and lead to a splitting of the flow paths, as illustrated in the image on the bottom right hand side of this slide. On the other hand, we have mixing, which is an irreversible process that blends parcels of fluid with initial different properties, aiming to reduce concentration gradients. In turbulent flow, mixing is significantly enhanced by turbulent eddies, which stir the fluid and increase the surface area for molecular diffusion. This two-step process of stirring and the diffusion leads to the quicker and more thorough blending of pollutants compared to laminar flow condition. In porous media, such as riverbed sediment, turbulent mixing promote the interaction between different components, making it a critical factor in pollutant distribution. In the current slide, we are going to briefly taking a look at some of the recent advancements in experimental tools and techniques to study turbulent flow. Microfluidic devices has emerged as a powerful platforms for studying flow instabilities and complex fluid behaviors at the microscale. This slide showcases an application of microfluidic devices in visualizing and also analyzing fluid dynamics and elastic flow instabilities. In the figure on the left-hand side of this slide, you can see a schematic of microfluidic device designed to visualize fluid flow within porous media. These devices typically consist of networks of microchannels and the porous patterns which are etched or molded into materials like glass or polymers, allowing researchers to directly observe and quantify the fluid movement through porous structures that mimic porous materials. Figure on the right-hand side of this slide illustrates instabilities observed during the flow of hydrolyzed polyacrylamide solution through porous media. The images reveal elastic flow patterns and instabilities that can occur when non-Newtonian fluids interact with porous structure at the microscale. Microfluidic devices can offer several advantages for studying such flow phenomena. The first significant advantage of using microfluidic devices is about precise control. Microfluidic devices allow for great control over flow and geometries. The second important advantage of using microfluidics is direct visualization. The small scale and typically transparent nature of microfluidic chips enable in situ high-resolution imaging of flow behaviors, which is opposed to the only endpoint information which we can have in inlet or outlet of the conventional column experiments. Another advantage of using microchips is reproducibility. Microfabrication techniques ensure consistent device geometries, allowing for repeatable experiments. And eventually, microfluidic experiments require very small amounts of fluids and chemicals and a relatively quick testing procedure, making them cost-effective and environmentally friendly. By leveraging these advantages, researchers can systematically investigate flow instabilities, rheological behaviors, and multi-phase interactions at different scales and under conditions that were previously challenging to access. In this slide, I will give you an overview of the history and evolution of turbulence numerical modeling. As I mentioned earlier, turbulence represent a highly complex and chaotic phenomenon in fluid dynamics, often characterized by irregular velocity fluctuations and also rapid changes in pressure. The field of turbulence modeling has evolved significantly since its inception, driven by the need to simulate and analyze these complex flows accurately. The figure in this slide, which is adapted from a review paper by Zhang et al., illustrates the evolution of turbulence modeling, characterized into 4 distinct phases. The blue color denotes the first phase, the green color represents the second phase, the orange color shows the third phase, and the yellow color indicates the fourth phase. Let's first look at the first phase, the blue one. The foundational work on fluid dynamics and turbulence began with the Reynolds work, who introduces the concept of Reynolds average Navier-Stokes equation, or RANS equation, which decomposes the flow into mean and fluctuating components. This decomposition forms the basis of many turbulence modeling used today. While this work was not directly focused on porous media, it laid the groundwork for future developments in turbulence modeling in porous media. The 1950s marked as the beginning of the efforts to develop practical numerical models for turbulent flows, based on the Reynolds average Navier-Stokes equation, or RANS equation, driven by the advancements in computing technology and increasing demand for engineering application. Let's move to second phase, the green one, which indicated that the 1970s marked the maturation of direct numerical simulation, or DNS, which offers highly accurate turbulence flow field data, but it can also be computationally costly. Third phase, or orange color in the figure, refers to the time that large eddy simulation less emerged, providing better physical descriptions than RANS, though it also has its limitation. Fourth phase, in yellow color, is when the machine learning based turbulence modeling came into focus, which can also be divided into two sub-stages. First substage is the statistical learning. In this substage, turbulence data is processed, features are extracted, and the model are constructed using machine learning algorithms. The second substage is deep learning. This substage involved using deep learning techniques to develop models directly from data, enhancing the ability to handle complex turbulent flow feeds and improving prediction accuracy and capability. In this last slide, you can find some examples from the literature that have numerically modeled the turbulent flow in porous media. The first work is velocity field determination within the randomly packed and homogeneous porous structures with the same grain sizes at high Reynolds numbers, using the direct numerical simulation approach to investigate the dynamics of flow. The second one indicates the velocity predictions on the XZ plane using the RNG K epsilon or renormalization group K epsilon turbulence model, which is an advanced version of the standard K epsilon model based on the Reynolds average Navier-Stokes or RANS equations. In this work, the authors have investigated turbulence characteristics in a packed bed of 113 spherical particles by performing particle resolved Reynolds average Navier-Stokes or RANS simulations, also large eddy simulation or less, and direct numerical simulation. In the third one, the authors have modeled the submerged canopy patches as a porous array, and what you can see here is the contours of time averaged vertical velocity and two-dimensional time averaged streamline in the vertical symmetry plane at two different densities of array. This study leveraged large eddy simulation approach. In the fourth study, the hybrid RANS-less numerical approach was used. Regarding the hybrid approaches, two variants of the detached eddy simulation or DES, one delayed detached eddy simulation, DDES, and improved delayed detached eddy simulation or IDDES were studied. Here you can see mean streamwise velocity contours and streamlines for the results of both variants of the hybrid approach. Finally, in this slide, you can see some of the references that I've used to prepare this lecture, and also for each figure that has been adopted from literature, you can find the source of image right beneath to each image, and you can refer to them for further information if needed. Thank you very much for being with me through this lecture. I hope that you find the session informative and fruitful. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. You can contact me directly via email. Thank you once again, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.